All right, the man widely regarded as the most powerful vice president in U.S. history has died. Dick Cheney was 84 years old.
Fox News' Brett Baer takes a look back at Cheney's long and often controversial career.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
He was one of the most polarizing political figures in recent memory. A hero and patriot to conservatives, a villain to liberals. Serving under 4 different presidents, in his last job, Dick Cheney became arguably the most influential vice president in American history. He was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, January of 1941, into a family of 5. After Cheney flunked out of Yale, as he would put it, he finished both a bachelor's and master's degree in political science at the University of Wyoming. But before he finished his doctorate at the University of Wisconsin, Cheney won a Capitol Hill Fellowship and headed to Washington with his new bride, Lynn Vincent, on his arm. It wasn't long before former Illinois Congressman Donald Rumsfeld would recruit Cheney to work in the Nixon administration. Cheney quickly rose in the ranks. Then at 34 years old, he became President Gerald Ford's chief of staff.
I watched him in summit meetings, during intense discussions in the cabinet room and the situation room, and throughout the exhausting, gallant effort of the 1976 campaign.
After serving as campaign manager for Ford's failed re-election bid, Cheney went home to Wyoming. He returned to Washington in 1978 as the representative from the Equality State, winning re-election 5 times. In 1989, Cheney was named Secretary of Defense by President George H.W. Bush. While Cheney essentially had no military experience and 5 draft deferments during Vietnam, it was Cheney who pushed hard for aggressive action against Iraq when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in 1990.
When war came, America was ready, and Secretary Cheney's leadership contributed enormously to the victory.
Cheney left the White House in 1992 when Bill Clinton defeated President Bush, but he remained relevant as a Republican voice, choosing to stay in the private sector. Cheney nearly doubled revenues at energy heavyweight Halliburton as the company's CEO. Cheney resigned from Halliburton when he became the vice presidential candidate alongside George W. Bush in 2000. In one of the most arduous and complicated elections ever, Bush and Cheney defeated Al Gore and running mate Joe Lieberman when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 5 weeks after the election to cease recounts in Florida.
We will always understand the pain of their families, and our nation will forever look with reverence upon this place where their lives ended.
Cheney's leadership was put to the test less than a year later, 9/11. The vice president was forced into the White House bunker, helping make the call to shoot down any aircraft deemed a threat in American airspace. Vice President Cheney was a key player in the White House's War on Terror campaign. In the prism of post-9/11 and after unheeded warnings to Iraq's leader Saddam Hussein, President Bush ordered the launch of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003.
6 in 10 Americans say they feel it was a mistake to go to war. What do you say to those people?
We were elected to do a job and to do what we think is right for the country.
The Bush White House had asserted that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, a claim many of those officials would later retract when the weapons were never found. Bush and Cheney won re-election against Senators John Kerry and John Edwards. In 2005, Cheney found himself at the heart of the CIA leak scandal involving operative Valerie Plame. His chief of staff, Scooter Libby, was charged with lying to FBI investigators in the investigation, of whom released Plame's name to a journalist as possible retribution for criticism of Iraq policy by Plame's ambassador husband. Vice President Cheney was never charged in connection with the leak, and 2 civil suits against him were dismissed. Cheney ended his second term as one of the least popular politicians in American history. By 2010, Dick Cheney had survived 5 heart attacks. In 2012, Cheney underwent a heart transplant. His doctor pronounced him healthy and gave him at least another decade to live. Cheney's daughter, Liz, continued the vice president's legacy in Congress, winning her father's old seat in 2017 and moving up the ranks of GOP leadership with her still influential father looking on. But after Liz's continued vocal criticism of President Donald Trump, the Republican Party closed ranks and she lost her re-election bid.
Lynn and I are so proud of Liz for standing up for the truth, doing what's right.
Dick Cheney was typecast as aloof and accused of being calculating and deceptive. Friends called him quietly funny and dry, but determined. Cheney helped lead the country through 3 wars and the worst attack on the U.S. homeland. In Washington, Brett Baer, Fox News.